Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. In this video I would like to talk about my frustration of all the international breaks during a season. Right now we are in the middle of the first international break in September. And I'd like to ask, are there too many? Do the players have to leave their clubs so often during a season? This has long been debated by fans over the years from all football clubs. As I said, it's the beginning of the season and we already have the first international break, and there will be another one a month later in October. Now, I fully understand that the World Cup is next summer and it's important for the national team coaches to have all their players together as much as possible in order to prepare. But what I don't understand is why they have to go together to play unnecessary friendlies that are at risk of injury to the players. Over the years, Manchester United have had a love-hate relationship with the English FA, especially during the height of our success under Sir Alex Ferguson, when the majority of our English lads in the team were all called up to represent their country. The likes of Rooney, Neville, Beckham, Scholes, Sheringham and sometimes Andy Cole, plus all the other international players for their other countries. And the amount of times that the players would return injured, whether it's minor or major, it's not important. They're going to miss a chunk of the season, and they did. Even way back in the 1980s, United captain Marvel Brian Robson was always picking up injuries while on duty with England. Dislocated shoulders, broken bones, you name it, he had it. So, there is one other player that was seriously affected by an injury, and that was Steve Coppell. While on duty for England, he had a career-ending knee injury. What a loss. Terrible. And now, in the Premier League, with more and more international players, especially from South America, when a player leaves to represent their country, they're travelling thousands of miles. So, when they do leave the club, the managers and coaches are keeping their fingers crossed. Not only do they not pick up an injury, but they're not too fatigued on their return home. And in the month of December, we have the African Cup of Nations, where clubs in the Premier League will not just be losing one, but many players for maybe up to a month. Now, I fully understand. It's important for a player to represent their country of birth or where they're adopted. But aren't there just too many international breaks during a season? Could we not find a simpler way of doing this? Of course, we have the European qualifiers, we have the World Cup qualifiers. They're all important competitions. But for the nations teams, especially countries like Scotland and Wales, they are important competitions, but we have to find a way of doing this so as not to put in danger the well-being of the players. Now, I'm not suggesting that all players should be wrapped in cotton wool, but let's restrict the amount of times that they have to disappear from their club every season. Let's look at the first 3 months of the season this year. Premier League started in August. By the end of November, there would have been 2 international breaks. 2 weeks each, which equals a month that players are away from the clubs. Add on to that the African Cup of Nations. So there's more risk to the players picking up injuries representing their country. But it's also important for a club's momentum. Just before an international break, maybe the club is on a high, and the last thing they want is to have a break from club football. Okay, on the same side, you might have a club that's not doing so well, and they'd welcome the break. But in the end of the day, we have to make sure that there are not too many times that they have to stop playing for their club. Let's look at the schedule for England. In their upcoming international matches, they have this week in September. Then, during October, they've got a World Cup qualifier. and a friendly against Wales in the middle of October, which I believe is totally unnecessary. Why do we need to play a friendly at that time of year? England-Wales, okay, it's not England-Scotland, but it's still going to be a pride match. And of course, players will not be holding back, so there's more risk of injury. Is it necessary? I think not. Now, okay, many of you will say that as a United fan, there are not many players from our team representing the likes of England. But that's not really the case. I'm talking about all clubs. And what we don't want to do is have a diminished Premier League. We want to see the best players fit at all times. Yes, they'll pick up injuries for their club, but we can limit the amount of injuries they pick up by cutting down the international matches. Let me give an example of what I'm talking about. Brazil. Brazil is represented now by many players in the Premier League. United, we've got Casemiro, we've got Matheus Cunha. Now, in October, the Brazilian squad are going to fly all the way to South Korea to play a friendly against the nation in Seoul. Now that, from England, is 16 hours on a direct flight. So if you lay over, it's going to be more hours. So if you double that, coming back another 16 hours, that's 32 hours in the air. God knows how far it is from Rio. All this way just to play a friendly. Now, Matheus Cunha is not a robot. And he's going to be tired. He's going to be fatigued from all that travelling. What's the answer? That's a difficult question to answer, to be honest. But I think one of the things to do is get rid of the useless and pointless friendlies that have no value at all. Managers and players are always complaining of an overloaded season. And these matches that are not important are not doing any good to the players to alleviate the problem. We all knew long ago that the World Cup was going to take place in America next summer. So why couldn't we pre-plan for this? Wasn't it possible to help the players prepare properly by maybe starting the season earlier and finishing earlier? To give them more time to prepare as a team collectively at the end of the season? But no. What happened? FIFA decided to have a Club World Cup competition in America, which is not the home of football. And players, especially from Chelsea, congratulations on winning that, but really that meant that most of the players had a full year, 12 months of playing football. Was it necessary? Was it needed? The people who control everything, obviously, they're thinking about the money, the revenue. They're not thinking of the well-being of the players. If a player gets injured, they're still going to get their money. And that wasn't even international football, that was club football. But was it really necessary for so long as well? So starting the season a little earlier and finishing a little earlier with a better hindsight, that would have given clubs time to get the season finished, send the players away for international duty and prepare well for the World Cup. We don't want a World Cup with players missing through injury. Do you remember Beckham with his broken foot, or Rooney with also, and people were praying on the front of the Sun newspaper that they'd be fit for the World Cup or the European qualifiers, championships? Crazy. So, with the latest international break underway, let's hope that there are no major injuries for anybody's club and everybody returns and picks up where the season left off. Especially City, if they can just keep losing, because we're playing them next. But I'd like to know your thoughts. What do you think about the international break during the season? Please leave your comments. And thank you for watching me again. Please continue to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you.